Ron. Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, that alarming outbreak of measles is still spreading. More than 100 people now infected in 14 states. And as it grows, so does the debate over childhood vaccinations. NBC's Hallie Jackson is following all of it. Hallie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Savannah. And this morning, we're keeping an eye on a couple of suspected measles cases in Nevada, which would become the 15th state seeing the virus if those are confirmed. The outbreak making national headlines, now a hot topic for the nation's top politicians.
With medical experts overwhelmingly in agreement, vaccines are safe, Democrats and Republicans are sparking a debate that's become as much about politics as public health. Hillary Clinton weighing in late last night, tweeting, "The earth is round, the sky is blue, and vaccines work," adding the hashtag grandmothers know best. Hours after her potential 2016 rival, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie talked about parents who choose not to vaccinate.
Parents need to have some measure of choice in things as well. So that's the balance that the government has to decide.
After blowback, Christie's office quickly clarified, with a disease like measles, there's no question kids should be vaccinated. And Senator Rand Paul is also making waves after comments he made about the choice to vaccinate.
State doesn't own your children. Parents own the children. It is an issue of freedom.
President Obama reignited the conversation around vaccinations in his interview with Savannah.
Are you telling parents you should get your kids vaccinated?
You should get your kids vaccinated.
Most doctors say vaccines are the only way to stop the measles outbreak that's grown to 102 people in 14 states. But many parents still have passionate reactions, like Marcella Piper-Terry, who blames the measles vaccine for triggering serious seizures in her daughter.
And I say, vaccines are safe, vaccines are safe. Not for my child.
The CDC says severe reactions to the vaccine are very rare. But for Piper-Terry, there's still a question about vaccinations, and it's one she feels attacked for even asking.
It's discriminating. It's hate speech. And I can't believe I'm living in America.
90% of unvaccinated people will catch measles if they come into contact with the virus. That includes those too young for the shot, like the 14 babies at a California daycare. They're being isolated for 3 weeks, Matt, because they may have been exposed to that contagious virus.
All right, Hallie, thank you very much. Hallie Jackson. Chuck Todd is the moderator of Meet the Press and NBC's political director. Chuck, good morning to you.
Good morning, Matt.
When we were growing up, the talk about vaccines was, do they work or not? Now we have established science that shows, for example, that the measles vaccine does work, and yet it's become a political issue. Why?
Well, it's a combination of a few things that all have come together, right? Number one, you have the issue of religious freedom, and that's always been something that politicians, when they talk about things like mandating vaccines, they always take one step back and always want to make an exception for religious freedom, and we know religion and politics, very important to political figures. The second thing is the rise of social media, and you throw in the combination of the scare about 10 years ago of the connection or the thought that there might be a connection between vaccines and autism, and how that spread like wildfire in social media after, in politicians, you go back to Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama when they ran in 07 and 08, they were talking about it. So I think this is sort of the perfect storm of what happens when the credibility of politicians goes badly. You have the spread of misinformation so easily on the internet, and now we get to a situation like this where politicians essentially are afraid to offend everybody, so they are afraid to say anything.
It becomes a hot potato. The New York Times, the liberal New York Times, puts it this way in an article this morning: the vaccination controversy is a twist on an old problem for the Republican Party. How to approach matters that have been largely settled among scientists but are not widely accepted by conservatives. And even as I read that, Chuck, let's make it clear, this does not break down neatly between the right and the left. There are pockets of liberal, affluent America where parents don't want their kids vaccinated.
No, that's right, and I think that the pockets in California, some of this is more, I think, of a liberal point of view. But still, I think what this goes down to is we've been politicizing science now, I feel like, for the last decade in a lot of ways. You can throw, whether it's climate change. Look at Hillary Clinton's comment. I thought that can come across a little bit condescending, and I think the part of the problem here for politicians is maybe because the trust gap is so wide for them with the public that they ought to stay out of this debate. And this really ought to be, we ought to be pushing forward. If you're a political leader and you care about this issue, you ought to step back and push forward medical experts on this, because at the end of the day, I think the more politicians weigh in, the more this ends up splitting along political lines, and that's going to solve nothing.
Chuck Todd, good point. Thank you very much.
Turning now, I've got some news out of the Middle East.